You're listening to Second Cut. This is the podcast from the Film Magazine where we talk about topics in film theory, criticism, history, and whatever else we feel like. I'm Jacob, and I'm the one who is technically not responsible for the things that happened in my movie. That's on you guys.
Yeah, fair enough. Most colonialism goes back to us, doesn't it? I'm Sam. I'm the one who's only selected an only very tangentially Thanksgiving-related movie.
I'm Kieran. I'm the one who will never do trampolining in a high school gym hall ever again if I ever have the chance to, for some strange, bizarre reason. No. Should it ever happen, I will decline the invitation.
Our high school gyms generally don't have trampolines, by the way.
I mean, we had a small trampoline for like PE, when we were like jumping over kind of like big boxes and stuff, along with like a springboard, but it wasn't.
And they're quite statistically dangerous. That's probably why most schools don't risk them.
That's fair.
You're meant to kind of jump towards a crash mat, obviously. But we use.
Most of just land on the springs at the edge, don't they?
Yeah, we used that more than we used all the kind of like apparatus that was piled up at the side, that swung out. Sam will know this. I don't know if they had it in
all like the wooden frame, all the wooden frames that folded
the climbing frames and stuff,
and the ropes.
I don't remember what we did in PE because I stopped doing it in like when I was 11. I think that's the last year I did that, and then I did sports instead.
Here's the thing, in the UK, I mean, this is only vaguely tangentially related to one of our films, but in the UK, you, well, at least in Wales, you had to do, games and PE were slightly different. How, I don't know. And then for GCSE, you could take PE, but you had to take at least one kind of lesson of physical exercise kind of thing a week. So we had to put up with doing rugby in the snow in like -5 for until we finished high school.
Why do you only ever play rugby in the winter when the ground was its most solid?
I don't know.
Sense to me.
Our PE teacher telling us to keep going and stuff like that when he's in 5 layers of thermals and we're in skimpy shorts is not good. But yeah, I'm never doing trampolining again.
Well, this is exactly the cultural exchange we're here to do today. Much like the idyllic Pilgrims and idyllic Indians did, we are here to exchange just something that probably does not need to be shared, but we're going to do it anyway.
Hopefully our exchange won't end in genocide.
What was the is it Philomela Kunk that did the thing that when the settlers came over, the natives showed them where to plant corn and grow things, and in return the settlers gave them smallpox, which isn't far off.
Yeah. No, that's basically the Thanksgiving mythos. Is one day there were these really nice Native Americans who just wandered into colonial land that was theirs, apparently, and just very kindly shared their beans and squash and corn growing recipes. And because here's a fun fact that I'll get to later about American settlers, they weren't really good at anything, especially growing food. So they had to learn how to do that. And in thanks, the colonists threw the Native Americans just a lovely feast, and it was a grand time for everybody.
I was going to say, it wasn't just England. It was, the Spanish and the Portuguese and the Dutch and the French and occasionally bits of German and Italian. But my thing would be that kind of, if you knew how to do a lot of stuff, you'd keep them in your own country.
Yeah.
You're not just going to give them away, like, our best farming experts, like, send them somewhere else. Like, that's not kind of the idea.
Yeah, instead it was your religious nutters trying to get away.
Because there's that myth that the Puritans were escaping persecution, but in reality they were going away to persecute.
Yeah.
Yep.
No, it's all ridiculous. That's the fun thing is it's all a bunch of crap basically, and it was made up in the 19th century based on like excerpts of journals where they were like, one time we ate with this guy named Squanto, and they just kind of took that and turned it into this giant national mythos in order to unify Americans during the Civil War. And I think also I read that for the New England people, it was during Reconstruction after the Civil War. It was a time where they could point out their bloodless colonialism. Look how much nicer we are compared to the people out west. We're civilized.
Yeah, and I guess if you've late 1500s, early 1600s is generally, I think, accepted when kind of the main European powers started going over and seeing what they could do about conquering other people's lands, essentially.
See what we could take.
Yeah, well, I mean, they didn't obviously see it like that way. I guess if they'd have found a civilization as powerful as their own, the idea would not have been immediately to conquer the damn thing. It would have been trade and stuff like that. But since they found that they eventually had a technological advantage, they're going to go, okay, then we'll do what we can. I have completely lost my train of thought as is happening.
Well, you guys asked me about the Thanksgiving Day parade. I mean, you guys know it from Miracle on 34th Street primarily.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also know it from Thanksgiving.
Yeah, that too. Although that's a different one, I guess. But the Macy's Thanksgiving Day parade is the same reason people came to America a lot of the time, commercialism. It's just Macy's decided to sponsor the New York parade in 1924.
Yeah. I've just suddenly remembered my thought of that when everyone going over there, you've got a fairly young a country, and even beyond that, you've got a fairly young kind of establishment of peoples that would eventually come together to be a country, if that would make sense. So it's like the country is kind of younger than the country, if that makes sense.
Yep.
So you kind of have to have some kind of unifying cultural mythos to begin with in order to keep everything together. Reading as part of my reading, there's the Routledge Handbook of ghost kind of stories and stuff like that, and there's a opening, one of the chapters on kind of Canadian ghost stories, where there's this phrase which is no history, no ghosts. So you kind of, in order to have kind of these mythos, or to establish that you have a culture, you kind of have to invent all these things to begin with, to say, look, we have a past, we have a history, therefore we are cultured in some way. We are people that kind of deserve to live, which is actually why I think a lot of horror movies now and horror novels essentially half the time just talk about themselves, because that establishes we have a heritage, we have a lineage, therefore we are worth something. And I think if you establish a Thanksgiving thing, that establishes that this has been going on for a while, therefore we are worth something. And it is a unifying thing, even if it's completely incorrect. It could be completely made up, but the point is that it is a touchstone for a large group of peoples that can come together and use it, rather than kind of actually care about any kind of historical accuracy or credence.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot like the Western kind of mythology as well. It's a very romanticized kind of view of American history, isn't it? And like it's like the ideal that you'd want to have happened, but it's almost comforting to just make stuff up, really. Present this idealized version and just put all the ugly stuff that happened in history to one side, I suppose. I mean, it's not especially moral or honest way to do it, but I sort of get why people prefer that view. But yeah, maybe they need to.
Yeah.
They need to wake up a bit and acknowledge the damage their ancestors did too. Just makes it uncomfortable. We're going to ignore it, which is a bit kind of a concerning view.
It's also actively being made up too. Like Kieran is talking about it being constructed. Like we can see it right now in our various right-wing parties, where January 6th, where people tried to overthrow the way in which our elections are enacted very rapidly. Things started changing about that story, and there were reasons explaining why it was okay, and that's just the myth that's going to live on within people who are like, oh, yeah, I was on the right side of that after I got arrested for running at the Capitol building.
I was going to say, yeah, so you'll have to enlighten us on this, on whether some things of vague British understanding of Thanksgiving actually happened or not. So,
Sure.
because one of the images that I think is kind of known is that the pilgrims sitting down with a native at a big banquet kind of thing. Did that actually? There's one kind of image that we haven't had, which makes it sound like it happened once, almost like a Last Supper kind of thing. Did that actually take place, or is this just something that there were maybe meetings in various places, obviously for like 100 years, that eventually just got amalgamated into an idea?
So, I mean, they don't teach us this in school. I had to go.
Of course not.
I had to go learn this.
You haven't got much history to begin with, and they don't teach it anyway.
They don't teach it proper. They frame it in, colonialist ways, but pretty much what was going on was because of the disease and because of the fighting and because of, there being other people that lived here. The closest group to the Pilgrims who landed in 1620, so long after many other people had been on the continent, they went to, live in this really crappy place in Massachusetts, Cape Cod, and Plymouth Rock. That's where they were. And, the natives right there, some of them could already speak English because they had been kidnapped and taken to England. And they were like, hey, idiots, here's how you do stuff. And why don't we have a big feast to celebrate that you're going to help us out if we get attacked by those people over there? We're basically just settling an alliance, and like maybe you'll be under us was kind of the thinking that they had. They didn't realize the conception of property the way that Europeans did. So,
yeah.
Long answer, yes, they did technically at some point have a sit down, but not at like a big picnic table.
Which is, I think,
and it wasn't at the behest of the
Pilgrims
Pilgrims
in their head. Because I was thinking, if that didn't actually happen, in my head, I'm also thinking, I can't remember the name of it, but the thing that happens at the start of Braveheart, where all the tribes are essentially tricked and then kind of massacred in some way. I can't remember the exact specifics. This is how well we teach our own history. In my defense, I was in Wales.
That's Scotland.
Braveheart isn't history, is it?
Yeah, but I mean that is based on something that actually happens. And for me, I'm just sat here going, there seems to be an echo of something. Some kind of treacherous plot.
About the end of the historical action Braveheart is a couple of the battles are actually called what they're called. There was a man called William Wallace, but that's about it.
I'm going to have to do a check of something very, very quickly, because isn't there a thing? I'm not sure if it's Columbus or one of the kind of first load of proper settlers that landed in the US, and they were greeted by kind of the natives, for want of a better word, and a very unwoke word it is, but it's the best I can do until I'm educated otherwise. And they kind of there's one. Again, I've heard this anecdote in passing. I think it was on QI about like a month ago. Columbus and that got there and said these things, but there had already been settlers coming back and forth for a while. And so he kind of approached us, and the first guy, kind of native, came up to him, and the first thing he said is like, "Have you got any port?" Because he'd actually been to England about 6 times, travelling over the channels, and knew English fairly well. So when the main group of settlers got here and they think it's uncharted land, the first thing that happens is one of these guys is like, "Yeah, have you got any like alcohol with you? I would really like some."
I want a drink.
Yeah, I will try and look it up very quickly and see if I can do it, because I can't remember the name specifically of those involved. But it's again just stuff like that, and you go, okay, our entire conception of what like the system of events.
That sounds like a proto anti-native myth where they're drunkards from like the start.
No, it's just a very well-educated individual and just kind of had been back and forth a couple of times and been to England and learned the language. And,
yeah.
Like, obviously, liked the liquor over there, and then come back again to New Zealand where you couldn't get it. So he saw these ships arriving, and it was like, "Oh, by the way, if you come from there, have you got any?"
Yeah, this idea, all these colonial kind of countries around the world, and inverted commas discovering places, and it's just just the first person, like, basically to kind of plant a flag in and kind of write back home about it, and that they get the the credit when it's just a complete fabrication.
That comes up when you read about zoology, and it's like, oh, who's the first person to discover bison? And then it's like the white person that found it.
Yeah.
I mean, Bill Bryson, in his book A Brief History of Nearly Everything, reckoned there was an anecdote that there are 3 stages to scientific, or I guess in this case, geographical, cultural kind of discovery, which is that when somebody discovers something, first they claim it's untrue, then they claim it's irrelevant, and then they claim it was discovered by somebody else.
Yeah.
Normally they'd claim it was discovered by a man, not a woman, but that's besides the point. So yeah, most of my kind of specific knowledge of Thanksgiving and all those kind of bits, that's not kind of taught over here. We have to pick it up a lot of the times through movies and documentaries. And
there's no reason for you to learn it. It didn't happen.
It's technically our history, but at the same time, like, we try to get rid of it. That's the point.
The only bit of American history I think I did in school was the Great Depression.
Yeah.
How depressing.
Yeah, there's literally no reason for any Europeans to know about this other than, like, movies and other cultural things, and then just, if you're interested in American history.
But just like you guys in the States, you wouldn't learn about, like, the English Civil War or the gunpowder plot or anything like that.
No.
It's not,
or King Arthur.
It's not really relevant to you.
Oh, we don't learn about King Arthur either. Don't worry. He was originally Welsh, which is probably why you don't learn about it. But that's besides the point.
Makes sense.
Yep.
Yeah, and then also I want to clarify before Sam and I get to our movies, Pocahontas has nothing to do with it.
No.
Are you sure?
But
yes,
yeah, but a lot of present company excluded, Jacob, ignorant Americans probably wouldn't know that.
It's likely. I'm sure there have been many a person dressed as Disney Pocahontas on Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, a lot of the US now thinks that Pocahontas was trying to run for office, surely.
Yeah.
Sad fate.
I brought it up earlier. That's on me.
Well, I guess we're going to have to discuss Pocahontas in a bit.
Yeah. Okay. Do we want to start with sort of the realist-ish grounding? Do we want to go with the off-the-wall film, or do we want to do the horror film that is mostly kind of on track?
I think we should end with Thanksgiving, because that would be the most fun, I think, to discuss.
Good point. Sam, then let's get yours out of the way. Let's get the bastardizations through media.
Well, my choice was because I don't really get what a good Thanksgiving film is, because I don't really get what Thanksgiving is. So it was between this or Planes, Trains, and Automobiles for me. But I thought, I've not seen this in a while. I remember there being a Thanksgiving scene in it. It's presumably set at that time of year, so I'll go for it.
By the way, it is not set at that time of year. Also,
but then why are they doing a Thanksgiving play then at the camp?
She said that at the camp they do like history play, something about the past.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sam, I think it's the same reason why one of the GCSE texts for pretty much the entirety of the UK that you can possibly study is A Christmas Carol.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah. Oh,
So
it takes
writing
place
about the true meaning of Christmas in, like, May for your exam. It's like, what the hell's going on?
It's during Australian winter time, which is like Christmas. So.
Yeah.
Australian Scrooge. Love to see it.
By the way, you say you don't know what Thanksgiving is, Sam. It's you eat food and watch football. And you're with your family or you are not. It's one of those two.
Which one is the Super Bowl?
That is in February.
Okay. Which is a completely different, because it's on a certain weekend, is it?
Sunday, yeah. Super Bowl Sunday. Which, it's one of those holidays that moves days, like Passover.
Or Easter,
Yeah,
Yes.
I bet those sick days, on that Monday following it, really move around as well, don't they?
They do. Sorry, Sam. Go on.
Yeah, so I'm talking about Addams Family Values, which is the 1993 sequel to Barry Sonnenfeld's Addams Family. which sees the ghoulish household welcome a new arrival, who they very kindly called Pubert, while Uncle Fester gets a
I
suspiciously
love that video game, by
enthusiastic
the way.
Well, Uncle Fester gets a suspiciously enthusiastic suitor, and Wednesday and Pugsley are packed off to camp. Which now I think about, yeah, probably it's like a summer camp, isn't it? So it wouldn't be Thanksgiving, would it?
Yep.
Anyway, yeah. So the first film was really financially successful, but kind of lukewarmly received by critics. You know, so it had quite trouble with production, but it ended up making back, I think, 6 times its budget.
You'd take that.
Yep. So they also put this one into quick turnaround straight after, and this one was better received by critics, but nowhere near as profitable. Only making it back its budget twice. So, I mean, both films are kind of blur into one a bit for me, mostly because they're both very Uncle Fester kind of focused. He's basically, his storyline's like the main focus of both films, really. So
Is that because
first
of the actor whose name escapes me?
Yeah, because Christopher Lloyd was probably the biggest star by far in this cast. Yeah, so it kind of makes sense, I suppose.
It's Doc Brown.
Yeah. So
Yes.
so in the first one, he comes back with amnesia, and someone's basically using him to get the Addams family fortune. And in this one, it's he's got
He remembers things, and somebody's trying to use him to get the Addams family fortune.
Yeah. So he knows who he is this time, but yeah, it's just it's a Black Widow basically. She's killed men for their family's money, and she goes after Fester and tries to do the same thing. I mean, I'd say this one's probably just as dark as the first one, but it's quite a bit funnier. I think the joke's better from the better used to writing these characters this time. I think there's some really nice kind of memorable character beats as well. I mean, the main reason I've kind of got this as like my Thanksgiving kind of film is for a scene at the camp where Wednesday basically stages a rebellion against the camp counselors. They're trying to put on a Thanksgiving play about the first Thanksgiving, bizarrely featuring Pocahontas, but never mind.
I would like to point out, when I worked at a summer camp, my kids never tried to rebel against me, unless they were talking at night when they're trying to get them to shut up.
No one tried to set you on. No one tried to set you on fire.
No, they got me doing
hijinks.
weird. They got me doing weird things. Instead of like staging like this, all the cabins had to put on some kind of performance of some kind of song, kind of mime dance routine like that. So the first lot I was with were like, I want it that way, Backstreet Boys. But then they got me to halfway through do like a record scratch and go straight into Rick Astley, just to get everyone.
Wow.
And then that same cabin, the next lot we had obviously heard about this new tradition that had happened the once, because they did exactly the same thing. And then the next time it was a different cabin that did exactly the same thing. So we accidentally started this thing of rickrolling everyone. But we did not start. We didn't burn anyone.
Yeah.
It's a really touching story, Kieran.
I was a better counselor than these guys are.
Yeah. So basically, these camp councils, they cast all the Bond kids as as the pilgrims, and then anyone who isn't white or is overweight or is sickly or is a bit of an outcast as an Indian. And Wednesday sort of plays along for a while. Christina Ricci, by the way, I mean, it was a real kind of star-making term, these two films. I mean, it's incredible. I mean, as good as Jenna Ortega is in the Netflix series, there's never going to be a better Wednesday, I don't think. She's perfect in the role, really. So she plays along for a bit, but then at kind of the key moment, where she's about to do her main kind of piece in the play, she kind of throws aside all pretensions and basically throws in a bit of satire about the real meaning of Thanksgiving. So she says, "You've taken the land which is rightfully ours. Years from now, my people will be forced to live in mobile homes and on reservations. Your people will all wear cardigans and drink highballs. We will sell our bracelets by the roadsides. You will play golf and enjoy hors d'oeuvres. My people will have pain and degradation. Your people will have stick shifts. The gods of my tribe have spoken. They have said, do not trust the pilgrims, especially Sarah Miller. So, and yeah, so she leads all the the outcast kids in a rebellion. Sets fire to the camp and very strongly implies murders the councillors. I mean, you don't see it on screen, but you don't see them again. So.
I thought it was just attempted. I guess I didn't get the
Yeah,
implication of them not
yeah,
escaping and never being seen.
yeah,
Obviously, before this, you have them rehearsing a
yeah,
sing and dancing routine of some of the kids in turkeys essentially going, "Please eat me, I am
yeah,
a turkey," and weird stuff. And then
yeah, yeah. I mean, it's almost like indoctrination or something, isn't it? It's like
yeah,
they're all kind of the routines of the camp and everything, and just trying to stamp out any ounce of like creativity or kind of yeah, anything that's not like very kind of heteronormative and white and middle class basically.
I
Um,
mean, they did pay $20,000 for the kids to go there,
yes.
so
Oh, yeah, yeah. And obviously, yeah. And to go to this camp, yeah, you have to be rich. I mean, yeah, you've got the old and rich parents kind of showing off about the achievements of their, of their kids. And Gomez, quite proudly says about Pugsley, "Well, my boy's on probation."
While he's smoking a cigar.
Yeah, while he's smoking a cigar. Yeah. Apparently, the original character description, in the Charles Addams comics of Pugsley was he's only allowed to enjoy the occasional cigar supplied by his father.
well, at least it's measured and rationed
Yeah,
out.
yeah. Barry Sonnenfeld, when he talks about like how this film didn't kind of do kind of as well, kind of looking back on it, he said. He thought that the first film was more romantic and the second film is funnier, which yeah, I'd probably agree with. But he reckons that part of the reason it didn't do as well was that the marketing of the movie was too similar to the first one, so that people didn't think it was going to, kind of it was going to be that much difference. Kind of just going to see all the same thing again. He really wants to kind of emphasize the kind of the chaotic baby angle and different stuff they're doing with Fester and everything, but.
The
Marx just
different same
focused
stuff they're doing with Fester.
Yeah, the different same stuff to do with Fester.
Yeah.
We haven't mentioned yet that Pubert the baby, of course, has a Gomez moustache, straight out the gate.
Admittedly, you have to be very, very careful because you just have to fill in the bit in the middle that turns into a Hitler mustache.
That's true.
So you have to be very, very careful with that. And a Hitler baby is not good.
No.
Might fit in
And
with
it's
the
like-
Addams Family, though.
And there are a lot of movies in the 90s with like chaotic babies kind of assisted by CGI, just being kind of, just being fired, through walls and, landing on things and tripping people up and just causing
Over
all that.
cranking just to
Yeah,
speed it all
yeah.
up. Yeah.
Yeah, all that. I mean, I think both films they basically are like living cartoons, aren't they? I do like the
Yeah.
way they're kind of the visuals and kind of how they kind of emphasize that. So no one's in any real jeopardy. I mean, yeah. So yeah, the camp counselors they've died off screen, but equally, if anyone can survive like apparently like lethal kind of injuries in this, so it's not like it obeys like actual laws of physics or anything. I mean, when Wednesday Pug's try and throw the baby off the roof, of course it gets caught by Gomez. But just before that, I think don't they drop a bowling ball on Lurch?
Yeah, cannonball, I think it is.
Or cannonball, yeah. The stuff that like Fester goes through and stuff like that. I mean, it's a nice little. Obviously, this was Raul Julia's final film released in his lifetime, and Street Fighter was released posthumously.
Yes, go check out our Street
Yeah.
Fighter episode. Well, I can't remember what that was.
Video games.
Kid reviews.
Video
That was
game
it.
adaptations, yeah.
Kid
Yeah.
reviews.
It's interesting that Jake's going to do 2 Colin Farrell films, in like back to back. Which I've done 2 Raul Julia films, kind of within weeks as well. So, but yeah, I mean, I think there's one of the reasons they never did. Though this film didn't do as well, they would have done more. I think if Raul Julia had lived longer, so they had ideas.
Because they did a Addams Family reunion, I think.
Yeah, which was like a TV movie where he's played by Tim Curry, yeah, but basically it was almost like a soft reboot, really, because no one else wanted to come back, and the only person to return was singer who played Lurch, the giant from Twin Peaks. I always forget his name.
I mean, let's be honest. If you're going to get anyone to replace Raul Julia as Gomez, Tim Curry's not a bad shout.
Yeah, and I've seen the reviews of that. I've never seen it all the way through, but I've seen the reviews on Family Reunion. Basically, they're all terrible, but most of them do highlight that Tim Curry is still pretty good.
Yeah, like if you're going to get anyone, it's going to be Tim Curry. There are some things where you're like, look, make the best of a bad lot, but that's a decent enough kind of. If you're going to do anything, you're going to do that.
Yeah. I mean, all like the main cast, they inhabit their roles really well, and I think kind of the second time round they really know the characters and kind of it's almost like second nature to them. I love the kind of the recurring visual that Morticia, Angelica Houston is always lit. Is always like a beam of light in her eyes. It's like Dracula. Yeah. It's like wherever she's standing in shot, she's always going to be lit separately, just to catch her eyes like that. I've always loved that little touch.
I'd never seen this before, actually. I'm more of a Munsters person, but...
Have you seen the first Addams Family?
No, I haven't seen it. I vaguely watched the TV show as a kid.
I'd seen the first one, and I'd seen kind of probably this entire film through clips, but never actually sat down and watched the entire thing.
Yeah,
it is. It's good fun and it's stupid.
I really enjoy it. I say it's just a bit of dumb fun, really. Check your break at the door and just go with it. It's only an hour and a half, and you'll probably have a good time.
I'm just glad it doesn't make fart jokes like the Scooby-Doo movies.
No, it's too busy. Every answer to everything is just like homicide or graves or
Wednesday's at that very special age when a girl has only one thing on her mind: boys, homicide.
Yeah, it's like every answer. It's great. I love it.
Yeah. There's some really nice one-liners like Debbie, Festa's fiance. These Addams men, where do you find them? Morticia replies, it has to be damp.
I will also give a quick shout out for Christina Ricci. A couple of years ago, did a film called Monstrous in 2022, which is actually very, very good. I highly recommend it. Check it out.
Yeah, I think she's definitely, of like the child actors, I think she's the one who's kind of really gone on to have a really interesting career, like beyond this, I think.
We say beyond this, she went back in Wednesday and played another character,
Yeah.
Joan Cusack is really good in this too.
She does good psycho, doesn't she? I mean, she's usually quite a cuddly character, but she can do the other side as well, which is kind of interesting. Yeah.
I was hoping she would join the family and be in a theoretical third film instead of being melted, or powdered.
Yeah. I mean, there's a bit toward kind of later on where Pubert decides to kind of just starts to change. He goes all angelic. He gets like blonde hair and kind of loses like the Adam's edge, and which really distresses his parents out. And this is when like Festa's been taken away from the family and the whole unit starts to fall apart. And her grandma says, unless Festa comes back, we're talking dimples. Gomez says, not in this house. He could stay this way for years, forever. He could become a lawyer, an orthodontist, president.
They change his nursery to be sunshiny and nice animals.
Yeah. I mean, now you imagine like an Addams on the in the White House. I mean, that sounds quite idyllic in comparison, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's the thing I love about the Addams Family is that they're kind of morbid and everything, but it's a kind of harmless morbidity.
But they're only morbid. They're only morbid to each other. They're a deeply loving family unit. It's just the world outside kind of who are much more kind of judgmental and kind of got way more issues. Just find that that they don't fit in, but they don't want to fit in.
Are we saying that the child that murdered people, the mom who was on like a satanic quest in her life, these are actually just fun morbid people, harmless?
Yes.
Yeah.
I disagree.
There's a thing online that kicks around every so often, which is, if you want a good relationship with somebody, it's like you should pattern it off of Morticia and Gomez. It's like that's the ideal relationship that you actually want with somebody,
Yeah, I've got this quote from Jonathan Barkin from Bloody Disgusting, and he says, I'm of the firm belief that the Addams family are the most loving, caring, and connected family that has ever graced the silver screen. They are wildly devoted to each other, show an interest in what others are doing, and spend tons of quality time together. In all honesty, there's quite a bit to be jealous of when watching them. The sheer resentment that Wednesday shows when the parents pack her and her brother off to camp. I mean, she's absolutely mortified. It's like it's the worst fate, to hand her down with. Make her hang around these kind of normal kids.
Admittedly, even when Gomez and that turn up and see everything, it's like, oh my god, sunshine, how revolting, dancing and singing campfire songs. This is like all, and then you get the bit where they're shoved in the in the house and made to watch like Little Mermaid and Sound of Music, and you just get the comments like, you can't do this. He's only a child. Don't make him do this.
Again, it's like an indoctrination through media, isn't it? It's like a type of torture. And yes, they watch Disney movies, Annie, I think, and
Sound of Music, I think, is one.
Yeah, the funniest bit about that scene though is when they're first shoved in there. Kind of one of the other kids kind of turns around and sees a picture of a poster of Michael Jackson on the wall.
Yeah. Because Michael Jackson was going to have a song for the movie, I think.
Yes, and it fell through. A lot of people say, "Oh, was this when the allegations first started coming out?" But no, it was a few years after this, really. But it was a coincidence that, looking back now, you think that's why you laugh, because you think, "Oh, he's screaming at her."
He is bad, so it makes sense.
Yeah. It's somehow a joke that gets better with age.
It is, yeah. I've got a couple of nice little letterbox kind of summaries to go with this.
Do your letterbox segment.
Yeah. So one take is the quote: "It's a boy. It's a girl. Gomez, what is it? It's an Addams."
Beautiful.
It just sums them up, because it's this user says, "Exactly, Addams family. No genders, just goth."
Yeah. That's all you need,
Yeah. And someone else says, Wednesday Addams cancelled Thanksgiving before it was cool.
As she should do. And
finally, turns out that white privilege is the scariest thing of all. So yeah, it's a fun little knockabout film. Not got much to do with Thanksgiving, but thematically, if it's about loving, being with your family and loving each other.
Family.
And sticking it to people who are lying about their history, then yeah, sure, why not?
And I will say that the Thanksgiving kind of scene pageantry thing with Christina Ricci, that is iconic.
Yeah,
it's so good. It's beautiful.
And we know, and Wednesday smiling is one of the scariest images you can ever put on film as well. Just at that point, it's like, she's got a plan. She's going to make these guys pay. She's going to look like she's submitting to their ways of being all sweetness and light. But no, that's not a natural smile. She's got plans.
And also, one thing I don't like about this movie is it has that weird 90s, early 2000s, like, I don't, maybe like a storybook aesthetic, because I think of the Cat in the Hat when I think of it. Like it whenever it's putting together all those rich people with all the same cardigan and stuff, like they all live in the same suburban house, the same life. Like it just makes me think of that cynical.
I think that comes from coming from a comic strip, though. I think everyone's kind of broad strokes characters, aren't they? They're archetypes, Which
I was going to say this. Realistically, this is a comic book adaptation.
Yeah, I just mean more like the production design in general, where it's more stylized in that. I don't know another word that's cynical kind of way, and it annoys. It's also Tim Burton-ish.
Yeah, and he
Or is
was
Tim Burton Addams Family?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm sure Tim Burton loves the
Maybe the other
cartoons
way
of
around.
Charles Addams.
Well, I
yeah.
mean, he then went and did Wednesday, so like.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I like this aesthetic. I think it fits the story they tell. Like I say, if they're just doing like living cartoon characters, that exist in like this really kind of exaggerated kind of world, then yeah, it works for me. So I don't have much problem with that. And I think you can tell that Barry Sonnenfeld started as a cinematographer as well, because I think all of the shots are pretty well constructed. There's some striking imagery in here, and I think the way his camera moves kind of adds to kind of the rhythm of scenes. Keeps everything moving. So yeah.
Sam, are you giving it a 6?
I probably would, to be honest.
But by the way,
it's definitely better than the first one. I think of the two, if you're going to watch one, watch this one. I think it's okay. I think it's a lot funnier. I think you can have a better time. I think the first one they're still working out exactly what tones to go for, whereas I think they're completely on it with this one. And if they ever did get to do a third one with this cast, I think it would have probably been, it probably would have gone from strength to strength, but sadly it wasn't to be.
Nice.
Go ahead, Jacob. What was your comment?
Oh, I forgot now.
You're doing it me. Well done.
Yeah.
So that's about all I have to say on Addams Family Values. We've got the tangentially related one out of the way. Let's go.
Yeah, Jacob wants to actually talk about some history.
Well, see, mine's also Pocahontas, like the movie, but the difference is what I was going for was the settler colonial conflict with indigenous people as my theme. So it fits thematically, not so much literally. Oh, I watched The New World by Terrence Malick. There you go. That's. I guess I was waiting for a prompt.
Our editor is very, very happy right now.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, and so am I. I love Terrence Malick. Every time I've gotten to do one of his movies on this show, it's a great excuse to watch it.
I'm hit or miss with Terrence Malick. I love some of his stuff, and I can't stand others. And I'll admit, this is one I'm sort of not quite on board with. But enlighten me.
Sure. Yeah, this is the third Terrence Malick film I've seen. I've seen Badlands about 10 years ago. I can remember almost nothing. And then we did To the Wonder with Joe a couple of years ago, which I can remember pretty much nothing about other than they went to Mont Saint-Michel for a couple of shots. And that's all I remember. So that tells you about as much as you need to know about how I connect with Terrence Malick's filmmaking.
Well, this has a similar-ish quality, actually, the way that it moves between two spheres, but it does it in two halves, or maybe 3/4 and then 1/4. I don't quite know how to divide it, but it's called The New World, and it does open with the Jamestown colonists, who were definitely the biggest idiots when it comes to American colonizers, because their goal was, we're just gonna go start society. It'll be great. We don't need to grow our own food. We'll trade and we'll get supply ships and nothing will go wrong and we won't have to eat each other. They did. That is in this movie too. I forgot the cannibalism and the starving times are in here. Yep. I think one time I accidentally maybe the Irish have a starving time as well. But I
Probably
think
during the potato famine.
Yeah, I think they called their very simple name for a famine something different. The starving time was the very on the nose name that the settlers gave to this time where they didn't have food. Now, fortunately, in this movie, there is a scene where Pocahontas shows up with a bunch of stuff for the colonists to eat. So, I mean, it's Thanksgiving-ish. It has more than Sam's does, which has little kids pretending. Let's see.
It's an amazing scene.
Yes. the settlers show up in their big ships, and they drop people off, and Christopher Plummer's there being the leader, and Then you also have Ben Mendelsohn, who is the big fat guy with the pug from the cartoon Pocahontas.
I was going to say that they missed the trick by not having the villains sing about gold in this one.
Yes, they did miss that. And there was also no pug, sadly. And of course, Colin Farrell is John Smith. And John Smith is one of the voiceovers. The other voiceover is, oh gosh, I don't know the actress name that plays Pocahontas, and I probably couldn't pronounce it anyway. So I think Kieran's going to look it up and try and say it.
Oh my god, it's almost like you know exactly what I'm doing.
Yes. That's why you should watch our video. You could see the context clues of Kieran Googling.
Koryanka Kilchner?
Sure.
Yeah, let's go for that.
Yes.
Yeah. Very bad.
So yeah, that's the other voiceover, and of course, she and John Smith are going to fall in love, and you know the way that Malick kind of sells this is it's a love story, and it's a more realist, grounded telling where the indigenous actors actually had to learn to speak Algonquin, which was the language of these people in the area. They used, local lumber to build up the fort that the Jamestown settlers had, and also the construction of like the native village that they go to. And that's where like I'll use the cartoon as the corollary here. That's where Pocahontas' dad lives, is in in that village. And it's a lot less, magical. So basically what happens is John Smith is out doing soldier stuff, and he gets kidnapped by the natives. He's wearing his, full metal armor thing, which seems like a terrible thing to wear in the swamp. But yeah, he gets beat up with those cool looking club things that they have from the cartoon, and maybe in real life, I guess. And he had a gun. He shoots a guy, and they're like, okay, we're going to take this guy captive. And they take him to the village, and that's one of my favorite parts, is walking through the indigenous village for the first time, seeing all the cool imagery, and people who are all painted, wearing cool costumes, because it's shot in a way that makes it, alien and strange and a bit spooky, but it's still really cool.
Yeah, the first hour 20 is the part that James Cameron nicked for Avatar.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, it's a combination of Pocahontas Smith story and like something like Dance with Wolves, isn't it? But
yes. That's the movie I was trying to think of a second ago. But the difference between this and Dances with Wolves is it's a lot more about shooting nature. So that's where Malick movies really...
Bird watching.
It's
Yes.
some lovely lingering shots of dappled sunlight coming through branches, isn't there?
Yeah, and there's one person who wrote about Malick's mythologizing of the Virgin Land, and creating this colonial narrative of here was this place we came to, and it was great and magical, and we did bad stuff, but it's about the way that we frame it as this Garden of Eden, which is kind of an element of the story that he's doing, maybe taking a founding myth and turning it biblical. I don't necessarily think that is a colonialist way to approach it, because the way he's doing it is incorporating the indigenous cultures and giving their viewpoints as well, which is primarily the second half of the film, if I haven't lost you guys. Nope. Okay, you're back. Okay. My internet looks low.
We were so enraptured by your speech.
No, it's not. My internet's low and you guys froze on my end. So
keep going.
Yes. The second half really takes on Pocahontas as the main character, or Rebecca, as she becomes when she's baptized, and shows her journey to a new world that very much mirrors John Smith's, where she starts out in colonial life after being, kidnapped as a hostage, and then moves over to England, where she also meets the king and queen, which I'm not sure that actually happened. but much.
It wouldn't surprise me. The royalty were famously known for wanting to embrace any new fashion, brought to their lands. They probably want to think, oh, we want to meet this this princess from another world.
Well, that's one thing that they do is in that scene where they meet her, they also see a raccoon and they see a bald eagle. And so it shows how the society is essentially equating her to this novelty, a lot like an animal. But she, that whole second half is her perspective on the story.
Here we go. She was presented to English society as an example of a civilized savage in hopes of stimulating investment in Jamestown. She became a celebrity, was elegantly feted, and attended a masque at Whitehall Palace. So yeah, she probably would have met royalty.
Oh, there you go. I knew that she had been kind of known, but whether or not she actually met the king and queen, I couldn't find that. But that basically it's about the new world in the virgin land sense, but then it's also about the new world in terms of both her perspective getting to England and also this new world that has been created in this cross-cultural exchange that does lead to violence and leads to extermination ultimately of these indigenous people, which Malick is very conscious of and portrays the colonization of Pocahontas herself in a very clear and upfront way. That I think takes it from perpetuating colonialist myth to critiquing colonialist practices as well as myth, just utilizing that form in order to do it.
Yeah, it kind of shows both sides of it. It shows that you can create a myth off this, but also you can deconstruct it kind of in the same way. It just kind of throws everything in together at various times, not like in one big kind of hodgepodge kind of thing, but it's kind of it does everything within the film.
I mean, he doesn't like a simplistic view of history, does he, Malick? And think of what he did with Thin Red Line as well. Very much kind of demythologized, kind of like the Pacific Campaign, and kind of what soldiers had to go through and everything. It kind of really kind of made it like took if there could be like a rosy view of kind of warfare, and kind of you get stuck into kind of like the more uncomfortable aspects of history, and that's kind of what it's really interested in portraying in this film. So
and with World War II especially, it being like a noble war.
So it's like really uncomfortable subject matter, but presented within like a really kind of attractive kind of visual kind of palette. That makes sense.
Yeah. And one thing first of all, I love just seeing the American countryside. I drive for every trip that I do. I just really enjoy, the photography of it, seeing it. But then also in this movie, there's the fun contrast of, here's the land in the New World. Here's all the forests, and Pocahontas is running through them, walking through grass, lots of grass because it's a Malick movie with Colin
lots
Farrell.
Of grass, followed by lots of shots of the camera pointed up towards the sky, up a tree trunk.
Yes, that's the last shot. Also, Joe, weigh in. What do the tree trunk shots mean? Is it some kind of phallic imagery? Phallic symbol. Phallic.
Don't start. Or phallic Malick.
Maybe it's looking up at God or something, or just Mother Nature in this instance. But the wide open space of that is contrasted not just with the city of what I'm presuming is London, but also the really curated gardens, the curated nature that they're walking through, and she's running through this tiny little forest that's off her property, and when she's talking to John Smith for the last time, you could see that forest behind them, where there's the curated garden that's like a hedge maze, and then behind them is just a little bit of forest, which I think is probably the coolest, just small little storytelling device I picked up on.
And I think even the kind of Jonestown, even not Jamestown, that's very much different. Although
Like
there's
it's a
still
different colony.
a lot of people dead still, but that's beside the point. We'll say the colonial settlement, it's very dusty and arid and stuff like that. Whereas the kind of native settlement, Pocahontas's original home, is still deep within the woods and the forest, and you have that just between the two, even before you get to England, which doesn't really happen until kind of the last 30 minutes of the film, which the extended version is just touching 3 hours. So that's the main contrast for most of it. And then when they finally get to England, it's kind of, if you didn't get it before now, here's everything you need to know about this kind of juxtaposition that we're doing here.
I mean that's the thing. I think Mark has been subtle in the past. So I think basically everything I think since kind of the turn of the millennium is I think he does kind of tend to hammer his points home, kind of possibly a bit too kind of forcefully for me, but I don't have a problem with anything he's saying in his films. I just we get it, Terrence, we get it.
I think
I'm making a point followed by 30 minutes of nature shots. I'm making a point followed by 30 minutes of following a butterfly through the sky.
Like I definitely get that, but I love the mood of all of them, and they're just a piece of art that they're always very similar-ish, but I enjoy it, and obviously it is for me, like I'd rather watch this than like Thor: Love and Thunder, which I was watching in there while making food. So
both have Christian Bale.
Yes. Oh, yeah, they do. Oh, yeah, Christian Bale as John Rolfe just showing up. It's so fun.
Which is the one actual connection to the animated Pocahontas, because Christian Bale's in that as well.
Oh, yeah. There you go. Fun fact. There was another. Oh, gosh. There's a part where at the beginning they're kind of constructing their fort, and this Indian runs up and kind of climbs up it. And in my mind, I thought, he's interested in like this new stuff that they're coming and building. And then later you see their big, wooden constructions they have. And I thought, oh, no, actually, he's like checking it out and seeing how does theirs compare to ours? Like, how are they actually doing this? And I just thought that, while that is my thought, I think that the film also is good at putting you into that mindset of the people who are showing up when you're kind of rooted in that perspective. So
I'll give it credit for kind of equally kind of like an equal spread of like point of view, between the different civilizations. I think it does kind of make everyone like rounded characters, and as you say, you see their perspective and where they're coming from, kind of culturally. So that's kind of interesting. I don't think there's many Hollywood films which would make the effort to do that as such.
Yeah. Most of them you essentially ground it in one character because that keeps an even kind of focus throughout the entire film. You either do that, or you kind of have sort of 3 or 4 that you just constantly jump between. Having essentially 2 halves is quite risky to a certain extent. But thankfully it's not completely like that because you've known Pocahontas' character for the first half, which makes the switch a little bit easier than just kind of randomly jumping into a new character, Christian Bale.
Well, and also this isn't like a traditional narrative film either, so I think the rules are a bit different when it comes to that.
I mean, it is a traditional narrative film, but it's not a traditional 3-act structure. Is what you're saying? Like, how would you call this not a traditional narrative film?
In the sense that it's not, plot and dialogue based. The presentation of it as a sequential narrative is non-traditional.
There's still plot. There's still dialogue. It's still in a
those
sequence.
Just aren't the focus. They are sequential, but they're told in a way that is non-traditional compared to, Thanksgiving, for example.
I mean, the reason for that is, it would be if you took out the half hour of shots of trees and rivers.
Then this would be a different movie. I mean, the editing's part of it.
I
I was going to
think
say,
it's
if you took out all of the Windows screensavers that you get when you get the new laptop, which is half of Terrence Malick's film, that's what you should have done in a previous life. You'd just be a native photographer for Windows.
Yeah, it's much more thematically driven than it is plot driven as a story. I suggest.
There's
still
definitely
quite
a
a lot of
sequential
plot.
story there. Yeah, and they have the big battle scene too, which is, I saw someone call it borderline like too Hollywood or something like that.
Yeah. What you're saying is there is a plot point every 15 to 20 minutes rather than every 5.
I guess I'm just saying the presentation is not the same as always.
Terrence Malick's done at least 3 films with some kind of action in them. He does know how to do it. He just chooses not to a lot of the time.
No. I mean, I've seen ones that go more beyond. I mean, I'm the kind of person that will still go something like 2001. It's still a sequential, fairly standard narrative film. It might go against kind of what Hollywood wants, but in terms of kind of everything there, it's still, even though it's hardly got any dialogue. I watched recently, a couple of days ago, No One Will Save You, which has about 3 lines of dialogue in the entire film, but it's still a standard narrative thing. I think it depends on where you're coming from, because I'd still go, there's a plot point every 10 minutes. There's still an awful lot of steps and different things that happen between them. There's still a decent chunk, a decent amount of dialogue. It's just that also sometimes it's going.
Sometimes you can't understand it.
Well, it's going sometimes. We could tell this in 10 lines of dialogue, or we could tell it in 3. Let's do it in 3. But the dialogue is still there. The information is still presented a lot of the time through dialogue. It's still got its plot points. It's still got its narrative scenes, and that kind of thing. So, that's how I would argue that point, which is what we're here for, to give arguments on.
Yeah,
structure.
I think we're looking at standard in 2 different ways. Where you're looking at like it's a standard story that is being like stretched out, but it hits all the points. Whereas I'm saying it's non-standard in its telling of a standard plot structure, because it is sequential. It hits the character stuff, but
it doesn't have an explosion every 30 seconds. Therefore, it's different.
Well, or just like reverse shot talking scenes. Like that's not the entirety of it either, or like half of it.
Admittedly, it'll do some weird stuff. There is a moment when Colin Farrell is talking, and it's when he's become the president or the leader of the camp, as it were, and he's ordering stuff around. And instead of cutting back, it will do kind of several cuts on just different angles of him talking, which I think is some of the things like you're saying. It's almost like I'm not going to say French New Wave editing, but that kind of little, not experimental techniques, but slightly unconventional ways of shooting. Yeah, at points, yeah, but it's still a narrative presentation as we would understand it, if that makes sense. He's not limiting himself to coverage, essentially. Yeah. 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 For 3 hours. I mean, the original run times were like closer to the one that's nearly 3 hours.
Yeah, I didn't know there was an extended cut.
Yeah. There is a cut which is nearly 3 hours.
Okay, yeah, so 136 minutes for the wide release. 2.5 hours for the limited release. So yeah, there must be another one as well.
Yeah, there is one he did in like 2014, I think.
Okay.
No. Yeah, that's 2 hours and 52 minutes.
Yeah.
Admittedly with credits, but the credits are quite short.
Okay, Jacob, this the second week in a row, I'm going to ask you this question or a variation of this question. What do you think of Colin Farrell's performance in this? Do you think he works as this character? Yeah. Mm. I still think this mid 2000s is awkward Colin Farrell stage where he's still not quite hit his kind of
He's still on drugs. That's why.
yeah, yeah. I don't think he's quite found his niche yet. You know, he's fine, but I don't really look particularly fondly back at this period of his career compared to like what he's done over the last decade. Really, I think he's really found his moment now. But you know, yeah, mm, yeah, yeah, mm.
And rolls in the grass and jumps in the river.
Ruins the
Oh,
hay.
I just realized I didn't say any of that into the microphone. What I meant to say into the microphone is Colin Farrell's fine. Yes.
He's not bad. It could have been an awful lot worse.
Yeah. Maybe I'd like to see a version where Christian Bale plays John Smith and Colin Farrell plays John Rolfe.
Yeah,
Sure.
I could take
Yeah.
that. Admittedly, it is weird to see Colin Farrell with long hair. It's like certain people can pull off long hair. Colin Farrell is weird with long hair. I don't like it.
Kieran
was
gets
that
to
a-
make those judgments because he
I do.
pulls off long hair.
I think it's weirder when they give him a wig that doesn't match his eyebrows.
It might be that, yes.
Yeah. Okay. I don't really have much else on this film. Joe,
It's like
I know you're
again-
listening. Come on and do another Terrence Malick movie with us sometime.
yeah. I mean, it's a weird one because I appreciate it, and yet it's
Yeah.
also very long and meditative. And you know me,
Yeah.
that's not
Yeah.
my area that I'm going to
Yeah.
connect with automatically.
Yeah. Yeah, I can appreciate it on an aesthetic level and kind of what it's trying to do thematically and everything like that. But I do still find it a bit of a tough watch.
Yeah.
Maybe if he
And
does
again-
his version of V for Vendetta, y'all
yeah.
can really get it more.
I have to be in the right mood for it.
Again, yeah, and again, I'm somebody that can quite easily separate a kind of how good something is as a different to how much I like or connect with the film, and I appreciate that this is a much better film than my enjoyment of it, if that makes sense. It's not like when I'm watching it, I go, "Oh my god, I hate this," but I also go, it's fairly slow and laborious, and it's just not my niche. It's not going to push my enjoyment buttons
Yeah.
as much as some
Yeah.
other stuff.
If you continue staring through the leaves of this tree, Terry, my attention is going to wander.
Yeah, it's just not something that pushes my buttons in that kind of enjoyment sense. Again, it's not like I didn't enjoy it, but it's like, you know, I could have watched 3 movies in the time it took to watch this. Yeah.
For some reason, I didn't remember the second half of this movie, so I don't know
Or
what
when
that
Christian
says
Bale
about me.
turns up and you're like, oh my god, Christian Bale, what are you doing here?
Yep, I pretty much only remembered the John Smith Pocahontas stuff. So, yep.
Ba-ba-da-ba.
All right, time
Right,
for
should we get to the fun one?
the only Thanksgiving movie.
And it's not even Thanksgiving. I think the reason, well, they called it Thanksgiving because obviously it's based off the fake trailer that Eli Roth did for. I'm not sure if it was in Planet Terror or Death Proof.
Well, it was in Grindhouse, so it was both.
Yeah, but they did different ones for different ones, didn't they? But also, I think the year before they did come out with a movie called Black Friday, which probably would have been just as apt a title. Considering it's kind of about the Black Friday thing as much as Thanksgiving.
Yeah, I'll give it this something I wasn't expecting. I wasn't expecting the opening kind of set piece to be one of the most terrifying scenes I've ever seen on film.
And not because of the violence either. It's because of the people.
Yeah, it just honestly, and it rang so disturbingly true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
mean,
that's the other thing Thanksgiving is here. It's you go shopping early in the morning. or
I was
late
going to
at
say,
night.
Jacob, how overinflated is this? Because we all know the kind of things of, oh, there are riots to try and get a waffle iron and stuff like that.
But the first year that we started doing that over here, I mean, there's no reason for us to do it over here because we don't have a Thanksgiving thing, but we still do Black Friday because of commercialism.
Yeah. What
Yeah.
what year was that, by the way?
It's about 10 years ago, I think.
Yeah, and
Ooh.
The first time that happened, there are all these reports of like fights breaking out in car parks outside supermarkets, over TVs and things.
Oh God.
Well, the thing is, you get that in the we hear about that in the US, and yet, like every year that I've caught the news, it's kind of the big shopping centers have brought in extra staff and something like that, and then they open everything up and nobody's there, and everyone just wanders in because it's like a 10% off a TV kind of thing. It's not massive, and it's just kind of, yeah, okay, we'll do that.
I've worked it and I have shopped during it, and I have lived every time. It's usually pretty orderly. They like make you queue up, as you guys would say. They have like those ropes that they put in movie theaters. They'll have those sometimes. In Walmart, they will have one that like takes you to specific places, like they're herding cattle through the store.
Like, and how much of a discount is it? Because if it's like 5% off, then it's not massive. If it's like 90% off an air fryer, I can see the point.
It depends. It can be like 60 to 70%. It's never going to be 90, but it could be pretty high. It could be just a good deal, 50%. And it's usually more that than the 5.
And why is Black Friday on the day after Thanksgiving? What is do we know like the origin of why all these sales happened? Like
commercialism.
Because in the nicest way, it was an American custom that kind of everywhere else is kind of imported.
But I suppose we have Boxing Day, don't we? Which is like a similar
the Boxing Day sales,
principle.
Which is essentially but for the Boxing Day sales, that was a tradition that have got numerous things, but now it's kind of Christmas is over, so everyone's trying to get rid of their Christmas stock. Do people give like the equivalent of Christmas presents on Thanksgiving, or is it literally just we sit down and eat?
Yeah, you sit down and eat, and then you go buy the presents for cheap that you're going to give for Christmas, I think, is the thought.
Oh, okay. Because we do it over here that kind of everyone buys a Christmas present, then on Boxing Day, which is the day after, essentially the Boxing Day sales start, so that all the stuff that nobody bought for Christmas, we've got to get rid of to like restock and bring in the new stuff. So we just reduce it so that it'll get sold.
Really everything should just follow Steam, where it's like fall sale, winter sale, spring sale. Like that's the way to do it.
No, over here we have a sofa store called DFS, and the running joke this running joke is that it's always having a sale. There is no normal price.
It's always
having for sale
in the adverts that oh my god, another DFS sale.
It's always making out the sale is about to end, but it never does. It's like, you've got to come this Friday.
Does the FS mean for sale?
No, I think it means definitely a flipping sale, and that's the nice version. I have no idea what DFS actually stands for, but yeah,
something furniture store.
The furniture store.
The furniture store.
But yeah, so Thanksgiving, based on the Grindhouse trailer, the fake trailer that Eli Roth made, along with a load of other people, when they did Tarantino and Rodriguez did Planet Terror and Death Proof. We've also covered Death Proof on our stunt episode about 6 months ago, so go check that one out as well. And a load of other, they got a load of people to make trailers. So they had Hobo with a Shotgun was the first one to get made into an actual film. Machete got made into an actual film. We are now waiting for Don't, which was Edgar Wright's fake trailer. We've got to do that. And actually, when Thanksgiving came out, Edgar Wright went on social media going, "Oh damn, I guess I better make Don't now." And eventually, we'll get them all made, and just clear the entire thing. But yeah, so it's Eli Roth who did Hostel and Cabin Fever, and unfortunately, recently Borderlands.
Fun fact: this is the only Eli Roth film I've ever enjoyed.
Like
Interesting.
Cabin Fever was okay. Hostel, I can see what it was doing, even if it's not an
I,
incredible piece of
I've
work.
not put myself through Hostel. It just doesn't appeal.
I haven't done the sequels yet, but
I guess I
it's not
don't
the worst.
enjoy those. That's not the
No,
right
I
word.
I didn't enjoy Hostel, but it's not the worst one ever made. Yeah, so this is a kind of modern traditional slasher, and the backstory, because all classic slashers have to have kind of a sins of the fathers revisited upon the teens. That's kind of the structure, and this one is no different. So there's a Black Friday sale in, I guess, what would have been 2022 or the equivalent of, and essentially everyone pushes in, and there's a big crowd surges, and in stupidly over the top fashion, there's like eyeballs ripped off and 20 people dead, and or 3 people dead, scalps pulled off in tropping carts, and people crushed to death and whacked over the head with the waffle iron and stuff like that. And then a year later, somebody dressed up in a John Carver outfit, which is the person who established this small town as a pilgrim, and they go on a massacre, because that's how a slasher film works. And our whole thing is, who is the person killing everyone off?
Yeah, because they clearly don't like the people who run this big store, do they? So.
Yeah, so it's very much an anti-commercialism thing, and it's, aside from that, it is a good old proper 80s. It's weird because it's I did the review of this that I just remembered. I did the review for TFM, and it's kind of, not only is it got kind of the 80s slasher vibes, but it's got a lot of the 90s and early 2000s kind of feel to it, and the aesthetic and the way that it's structured and the way that the characters interact as well. It's got that slickness to it that you'd see not only in Scream, but I know what he did last summer, Urban Legend, Cherry Falls, and all of that kind of ilk of the kind of late 90s, early 2000s as well. That this is as much homaging as the 80s stuff, even though it's got probably the 80s, like, I mean, in the opening Black Friday scene, it's kind of cheesy, over the top gore, if that makes sense. It's like not realistic in the way that it's done, but that's kind of the point, because it's grindhouse and meant to be. And then the rest of it is like just a really good old-fashioned, solid, just straight up slasher flick with a couple of twists in there, with a really nice villain, actually. I do like.
The classic kind of fake out. Oh, it was him, and then it turns out, oh no, it wasn't him. It was him.
Or her. We don't know.
We should have said spoilers a while back.
It's a slasher movie.
Yeah, I mean, we don't need to necessarily reveal the killer unless you've got a particular point about that.
I would say that there's a twist as a spoiler.
It's a whodunit slasher, rather than we all know who it is. I once heard it described as a whodunit or a how catch 'em. That's not an official term, but I like to think of it as. Yeah, and it's got a lot of the stuff that it had in the original trailer is in here. There's some stuff that isn't. So the trampoline kill, there's a modified version of that from the trailer, and everyone seated around the table is one as well. They've updated it for the modern times, so everyone's getting tagged in Instagram posts that it's being done, and it's there's some stuff that isn't from the trailer. The final shot in the trailer, the original fake trailer, go watch it. That's not in there. It's very raunchy, and there's a good reason why it's not in the thing.
I guess that happens with some real films too, or TV shows also.
What, where they put something in the trailer and then don't put it in the actual film?
Yeah,
The
teaser
dictator
scene.
a couple of jokes.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of the big studio films now just shoot things specifically for the trailer that they're never going to include in the film, or do alternate takes on the scene to hide spoilers, basically. So.
Yeah, because there is a thing where they do that and everyone gets outraged. But as far as I know, there is actually no law saying that what is in the trailer has to be in the film.
That would be insane. That would be so funny.
There was a film a couple of years ago which was meant to have Anna de Armas was in the trailer, and she wasn't in the final film, and one of her fan groups sued the filmmakers the false advertising. I don't think they got anywhere with
I
it.
vaguely remember that. Yeah, I mean, I'm very annoyed just with the June movies that Anya Taylor-Joy's in there as Alia because she's my favorite character in the books, and then like Alia isn't even born by the end they've done for June. It's like she's born like 2/3 of the way through the original June book. Come on, and then grows up rapidly fast because of weird stuff. So I'm very annoyed about that. But yeah, there's some stuff that was in the original Grindhouse trailer that isn't in here. But a lot of the stuff is, and a lot of the vibe is. I've seen a couple of people kind of online saying it's too slick, and they wish it had kind of the crackly kind of grindhousey feel. But that's just not the way it's done. You have to go for a specific aesthetic and kind of you kind of have to make it for a lesser budget and know that you're not going to do it as a widescreen release if you're going to do that. If you're going to do it as a widescreen release, you kind of got to.
And I think if it's explicitly a contemporaneous kind of setting, then that aesthetic doesn't really work. I think you kind of do a bit with throwback, or else it's a bit jarring.
Yeah, it's like it would be like setting a Shakespeare adaptation in the modern day, but still using the archaic language. Imagine, imagine if we were to do that and then get a very famous actor in the lead role. We'd never do that, would we? No. I mean, here's the thing: it's a slasher flick that happens to have a Thanksgiving theme, and this is obviously playing off the fact that in the 80s and the 70s and 80s, it was kind of what national holiday have we got? Let's turn it into a slasher flick. So obviously started with theoretically Black Christmas, and then Halloween did it, Prom Night, Friday the 13th, My Bloody Valentine, Mother's Day, Happy Birthday to Me, New Year's Evil, and all of that kind of stuff. And then there's got to be more that I'm thinking of. Probably Spring Break is one as well. And so they just managed to find one that nobody had done yet. We're going to do that one.
Have we ever had an Easter one? We must have done somewhere.
Have we ever had an Easter slasher flick? This is the question.
By the way, I looked it up. They did shoot this in 4K and then printed it onto 35 millimeter. So,
wow. There's Easter horror movies where it's kind of the Easter bunnies. An evil thing. I don't know if there's one where it's a slasher flick. I will have to do some Easter Bunny Massacre, Bunny Man Massacre, Easter Day. Here comes Peter Cottonhell, Bunny Man, Easter Bunny Kill, Bunny the Killer Thing, Easter Bunny Bloodbath.
So yes,
it probably has done yes, but it's.
Are
not,
there any good ones?
I don't know. I haven't seen them. But it was a trend that was a thing because essentially that's just how you marketed it, and so they're going for that.
I mean, these days it must be so increasingly more difficult to come up with a new slasher with like a distinct look to him. Just like an instantly iconic look, and I think they do that with John Carver in this. I think.
Yeah, it's like there is a Thanksgiving 2 in the works, and I hope they do because this is It is one of those ones where you do think in about 10 years' time, people will revisit and go, this is actually a very solid film. Yeah. And I mean, slashes can be cheap and cheesy and stuff like that. And this kind of goes for that, but somehow is actually just made very solidly.
I think it takes its material very seriously. I think it's trying to be the best version of this it can be.
Yeah. It's not just going for the cheapness. It is solidly shot, solidly directed, solidly acted. Even if you're not a massive horror person, you go, there's stuff that you might not agree with on a sensitivity level, but in terms of the filmmaking craft, it's all solidly there.
And the kills are all really gnarly, which is nice.
Yeah, they didn't go.
Maybe nice is the wrong term for that, but satisfying.
Yeah. Does anybody have a favorite?
I mean, still the trampoline kill, I think is going to be the iconic one.
Yeah.
Which is actually very slightly different in the trailer. It's just one knife right through the middle, whereas in this there's a couple of stabs, I think, through the trampoline. The trailer one is just straight up brutal. it's kind of cut just before it happens. And he's like, "Oh, that's what we want."
I mean, I very much enjoyed the one in the apartment because after he's done his killing, he makes sure to feed the cat before he leaves.
Yeah, I mean the cat's done nothing wrong. Like, you got it.
Yeah.
And the reveal of the presentation of one of the characters at the dinner table is gnarly at best, and that's kind of the point, and it's kind of carved off. But even those, like the execution of those scenes, if you pardon the pun, is really nicely, solidly, slickly done. We've got our violence in there, and
I think my favorite death, it's probably not one that's outright caused by the killer. It's when things are generally going all chaotic, in the parade scene, and the guy sitting in the truck, and the wood comes through the back window and basically takes his face with it.
Final Destination 2 style.
But it's not that, 'cause he kind of stays intact, but it's just like his nose gets kind of shifted to the side as the bit of wood kind of comes through.
The one for me is the corncob ear lady, because it has the Q-tip shot before. That was I don't like it.
Yeah. It's like it goes all out, and it could have just been a splatter of blood, but I mean, this is Eli Roth. He kind of one of the founders of the Splat Pack, as they were with James Wan.
Did you catch Eli Roth's cameo?
I can't remember in this. I remember him in the trailer because there's a scene that's not actually in this film. There's two kids making out in a car. In this film,
he is the modulated voice of the killer.
Oh, is he?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I did not catch.
He's got quite a distinct voice.
I know the voice in my head, and I haven't kind of got it from here. Yeah. No, the John Carver mask is nice. I was kind
of annoyed that he doesn't use the half melted one more. He kind of
the half melted one is fine.
For a fresh one again.
Maybe that will be the sequel one. It's already a legacy sequel where we take the melted one, because that's obviously where this is going now. I mean, I'm trying to say that there's stuff wrong with this because it's not a perfect film. My review for TFM, I gave it an 18 out of 24.
That's probably fair.
Because it's not doing anything absolutely extraordinary, but in terms of formula of what you can do with a slasher flick, it's incredibly well done. It's a very good example of this kind of thing. I don't think there'll be many surprises necessarily if you've seen a lot of these movies, but you can't really. You can just say this is executed well, and they clearly, have a lot of affection for these kind of movies and want to treat this material kind of with respect, I suppose. I was going to say, there's no massive twist, but in terms of what this is, like, I don't realistically think you could have done much better, if that makes sense. I mean, in order to do much better, you would have had to fundamentally change something in the film. You'd have had to, I was going to say, throw in time travel. We had a spate of that. Like last year around the same time that Thanksgiving, you had Totally Killer and It's a Wonderful Knife that are both kind of slasher comedies involving time travel, and it's like within a couple of like months of each other. Like, how the hell did that happen? But you'd have had to change something absolutely fundamental to kind of improve this. And again, it's not going to be everyone's cup of tea because it's even for a kind of slasher flick, it's a fairly gory slasher flick, not just blood but gore. It's not like over the top.
So one thing it doesn't overdo like objectification, does it? Really, it kind of but it kind of and like all the teenage girl characters, they've got something going on, haven't they? They're not just like cover cut out. Well, not quite cover cut out. So there's at least two dimensions.
One thing I will also appreciate is like there's about 2 or 3 kills so far. And then one of the characters, her dad turns up in a car, and it's just like, "Where are we going? Florida." Pack, we are leaving. It's like finally we have 1, a parent, and 2, one that understands what's going on here, and this is a good idea. I'm immediately reminded of Joel from Scream 2, who's the most sensible person in the entire 6 films and 3 series plus special, where halfway through he just turns around and goes, "Here's your camera. I'm getting out of here." It's just like I'm done with this crap. Turns up right at the end.
Also, with Patrick Dempsey in this, is there a chance that the Scream movies don't exist in this film's universe?
I mean, this will be the thing where Scream 7 actually is a crossover with Thanksgiving.
Crossover,
Patrick Dempsey pretty much plays the same character as he does in Scream 3.
Yeah. It's nice that he's still getting roles like this. He is a good actor, and I think sometimes he's not really given the material to kind of show him at his best, but he is good at this kind of thing.
Yeah, and it's actually nice that he went, you know what, fairly cheap slasher movie. Bottom of A-lister, but still incredibly well-known name.
Yeah,
I'm going to do it. At a
I'm going to
certain
have
point,
fun doing it.
Yeah, at a certain point, you could turn around and go, "This is a slasher film being made for like I think the total budget was like 7 million or something like that. Sorry, 15 million. Okay, that actually makes sense for around this budget. That's about right. But it's like even 15 million horror movie, gory slasher flick, an A-lister could go, "Not on your life." 15 million is about the amount I want to be paid for a film, because you're going to get the money in purely from having my name on the poster. But he obviously turned around and went like, I don't know, 500K, I'll do it. Let's have some fun. And I do like seeing the A-listers go back to kind of horror roots and stuff like that, and just have some fun with stuff, even if it's not going to be massively expensive. And everyone else does the job as well, so it's not just him.
One of my few critiques of the movie is what happens when the killer is revealed, and it has here's all of the small moments that she remembers. And I'm like, I mean, you don't need to show me that. I'd rather just pick it up the next time I watch it, which I did this time. But then they showed them all to me at the end, and I have to question, did I notice that, or did I just subconsciously remember this montage? I don't know.
No, there is always a thing when they do stuff like that where it's kind of, oh, it was there all along, and it's a completely new camera angle that you never saw the first time round. So like, we never saw that. So don't try and say that we were stupid.
We talked about this with Deep Red, didn't we? It's like basically, did they cheat or not?
Yeah. Here they slightly didn't, but at the same time, I think it's also one of the ones where kind of there was actually no way, even with that information, you were going to get it.
I think you'd have to be thinking on like a Sherlock Holmes kind of level to notice the information that she apparently puts together by herself at the end.
Yeah, it is one of those ones where kind of they've obviously just tried to play it up that anybody could have been the killer. And right at the end, they're going, "Oh, you fool! You missed it all." And it's like, yes, you gave the same amount of clues for every single character, and could have had anybody at the end, and could have just gone, "Oh, that makes sense." And that is always a flaw with these kind of things, or any kind of detective story. That it could have been anyone, and the best ones do it. So there is always going to be one obvious choice once you've seen it and worked it out. Rather than just, it could be any of these and I know I'm going to be right, which is what this admittedly does slightly fall into, but it's still a nice reveal. I'll admit I didn't see it watching it the first time.
It was one of two, and the first one was red herring. So I can't say I called it, but I wasn't surprised really.
It doesn't really bother me, but you are lacking the vital context that makes it possible to figure it out. But
that's again that's what the good detective twists have. They have everything there that means that kind of when you do it, you go, yes, that makes sense, rather than I can see why, but I was never going to get it purely from the information you've given me. And this the ending for that doesn't 100% stick. Maybe that was because they were kind of going, we can make it anyone, and right at the end they're going to, I know with after the first Scream they did like 20,000 drafts that they kept giving out to people with pages blanked out, and especially with Scream 3, I think they kind of didn't know who they were going to make the killer right until the final like days before they shot it, who the killer was going to be. So. Could have been that, but that's always an issue, and I will admit that is something that drags it down.
Yeah, if you want to see a vastly inferior version of this released only this year, or don't just do yourself a favor and avoid watching Founders Day. It just doesn't work.
Is it?
Gotcha.
I vaguely heard of that in passing.
Yeah.
I'm surprised I haven't seen it. Where is it? Shudder or something?
I can't remember to be honest where I saw it, but yeah, no, it's
I go
it's
through
very-
lots
I
of
remember the
lists.
poster.
And
yeah, it's very similar, and but yeah, just it ties itself in knots with its twists, and I don't even really think it does the basics particularly well. So it's trying to be too clever for its own good, whereas sometimes you're just better just doing a really solid version of what works.
is someone
Yeah.
wearing a mask of the founder?
He's wearing like a judge mask.
Thanksgiving, if you like this kind of film, it's very fun. If you don't, it's not going to be the one to turn you on. But at least in terms of filmmaking craft, for the most part, aside from again some niggles that we pointed out with the reveal and the writing of the plotting and that kind of thing, it's just good and solid. And for 15 mil, there is a hell of a lot worse. There's a hell of a lot worse for 150 mil, and it made 47 mil at the box office. 46.6 according to Wiki. So when you put in streaming and stuff like that and DVD sales, probably got to about 50 mil by now, which is a very nice. Well, put it this way, how much did Borderlands make? Like 31, 32 mil, something like that. So
Ridiculous.
How much did it make Eli Roth is what really matters, right?
Yeah.
oh yeah, enough to kind of fund about 3 more Thanksgiving films off his own
Yeah.
back.
Yeah. So Borderlands cost 120 million and made 33 million.
And this cost 50 mil and made 40. Let's make it 47 mil.
Yeah.
So, well done, Eli Roth. You got something out of it.
Yep.
All right. Well, that. By the way, the Thanksgiving bit. I mean, yeah, putting them all around the table, bringing them all together. They have to say what they're thankful for.
Yeah.
The lady's a turkey.
Yeah, and there's the Thanksgiving Day parade and Black Friday. So it's kind of a thematic excuse to have a slasher film, which is what most of these do.
And does integrate it, much like that great Santa Claus slasher.
Oh, Silent Night, Deadly Night.
Yeah.
And My Bloody Valentine will do it as well, like stuff in the heart-shaped box and stuff like that. Stuff like that.
So, guys, of the 3 films, what was your favourite?
Oh, Kieran.
It's going to be Thanksgiving just because it's nice and solid, and then probably Addams Family Values, and then The New World. Again, not because The New World isn't a very good and well-made film, just I don't connect with it. Just personal taste.
Yeah. I think I tend to agree with Kieran. I'll probably give exactly the same answer.
Mine's going New World, Thanksgiving, Addams Family Values. And not because of the Thanksgiving, it's because of the weird Tim Burton gothic-y look. Not really gothic-y, because that's what it is. More of like the fantastical.
It's American Gothic.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is a genre all in itself.
I will continue to compare it to Cat in the Hat. Because that's what I think of with that kind. Like, it's more grounded than that, but it's similar. All right.
Yeah.
Do we have any other questions we asked there?
Nope.
I don't think so.
Cool. Well, that's it for the Thanksgiving episode, but we'll be back next week with something else. Until then, where can people find you?
You can find me at SSP Thinks Film and at the Film Magazine, where, it's just Ridley Scott stuff for me. My review of Gladiator 2 and my updated ranking of all of Ridley Scott's films he's directed. So check both of those out.
I have now seen Gladiator 2. Shark Attack. Hopefully you don't find me anywhere. If you do, I am Judgmental in the various places. I think the only thing I have up since last time is a retrospective 50th anniversary review for Murder on the Orient Express with Albert Finney, Sidney Lumet as well.
Who is a great Poirot.
He's not bad, actually. I will take David Chusset now because David Chusset. But
yeah, I think he's far superior to Brenner. Really, I didn't really get Brenner's take.
I was gonna say I didn't know that Brandon Gwynn was already 50. It feels just like a few years ago. You can find me at Jacob Film Guide. When I write, it's at the Film Magazine, but I didn't write anything. So go check out from guest Billy Madge. Not Billy. Bella Madge. I scrolled down. I could remember the name, and then I forgot it. Judy Garland, 3 career-defining performances. And then Martha Lane also reviewed The Piano Lesson. That came out as a review yesterday, so go read that too.
And Margaret reviewed Wicked, I think.
Oh, yeah. There you go. We're also, holding space for that review.
From last year, I reviewed Thanksgiving, so go,
yes,
do the thing.
Yeah,
absolutely. Maybe we need like a maybe obscure holiday movie list. I don't know.
I should do a holiday slashes list.
You should.
Yeah.
All right, go check out our Redbubble below. You could buy material goods for Christmas coming up. I don't know if we're having a Black Friday sale. You can also just give us money. We're having a Black Friday sale on that. We'll take any amount you are willing to give. That's in the PayPal below the description, all that stuff. Like, subscribe, give a 5-star review. Send us an email at secondcutpod@gmail.com if you want to get in touch with us, or reach out to us at secondcutpod. And that is it. Thank you for listening, and goodbye.
It is.
Goodbye.